Hey, welcome to BreitWerks. What are we working on today? 1986 930S with a lot of roof modifications. So what are we doing today? Well, today we are going to replace this front condenser. So not the toughest job in the world, but a couple little fiddly things. So I was looking at the crash bar and the cover and the fuel tank cover, and I was like, ooh, we could get all three of those powder coated, but there's no real rust, right? And so I think we're just gonna clean everything, put it back in. But anyway, this guy does have a front oil cooler, so this is a little bit easier to get this crash bar out when you don't have to deal with this oil cooler in the way, but I think we've got a tool for that. Now, if you watched along earlier on this car in a different video, the rear condenser, we fluid flushed it and basically restored it. And some of you may be sitting there going, well, why aren't you doing that to the front condenser? Well, front condensers, number one, are still plentiful and not super duper expensive. But you can also see this guy is subject to a lot more road grime and grit. So to get this guy back into shape would probably take a lot more than what they cost to just simply drop in a replacement. So when getting this guy out, first thing you got to do is you got to get this crash bar out of the way. We may actually try and do it without, because of the way this guy's tucked. I think what we're going to do is there should be 1, 2, 3 screws that hold this in. Maybe, just maybe, I'm gonna not bet the farm on this, but let me go off, get some penetrating lubricant and get us set up here, and we're gonna get after this. All right, we got the little bugger out, and the good news is everything up in here looks very nice. So our fan spins, it's not locked up. That's very good news. And we were able to get it out without touching the crash bar. So not 100% sure how and why that worked, but it did. Now let's get to the actual condenser. So, you know, a couple of acorns, no big deal. You can always wipe those off. But as you start to look closer, and you see that all the stuff that's in these fins, like here you can see, looks like somebody must have spray painted something on the inside of the front trunk, right? Because that would have been coming down, and it's just completely clogged those fins. And then also you can see up here, you know, that's not going to allow for any flow. So yeah, could you clean this up? Absolutely. You could spend a lot of time and get this guy probably in good shape. But again, if you do that, you're still dealing with, you know, 30-year-old fittings that could potentially leak. So you might as well just put in a brand new one. So I'm going to go grab the brand new Bear / Molly / I don't know, they've all bought each other. But we're going to go get that, make sure it's an exact duplicate. So they actually call it the premium line. So now it comes in a Molly box, but it's got a Bear number on it somewhere. They're always made by Bear. And this one says, there we go, Bear. Made for a Porsche 930, which, yeah, it's not any different than the other ones. But as you look at the construction, it's the same, right? When we changed out the evaporator, we went to that serpentine coil. And they do make these with the serpentine coils. Very, very expensive. And I'm not sure you get the same level of benefit, but you know, this will be nice. Everything will work the way it's supposed to work. Now, this is gonna get a little fiddly to put back in, but what I'm gonna do before we do that, I'm gonna put a coat of wax under here just to make sure that anything we dislodged as we put it all back together, we haven't done any harm, right? The Hippocratic oath of working on Porsches. So let me get after that and see if we can get you guys back in here. All right, so this is turning out to be a little harder than we thought. basically the crash bar, you can see it here. Something at some point definitely left a mark, and who knows when, where, whatever. But basically the area right between here and here is not wide enough. You can see that it was rubbing a little bit, but it is not wide enough for both the condenser and the cage. So what we are gonna do is, you can see this is a slotted hole in the crash bar here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna loosen this up, and we're gonna see if we can move this guy towards the front of the car a little bit. On this side, it looks like we don't have a lot of adjustment, but we definitely have got some on this side. So I think with just a little adjustment there, we'll be able to make some space. The other thing is, you can tell on the passenger side, the two holes of the new condenser line up. But when you come over here, you see how the condenser hole is there and the protective bracket hole is there. The old condenser, I just went and looked at it, this is actually bent very, very far. But the way that this is made, it's actually riveted into the body there. So even though that's not a point where any refrigerant is, I don't want to screw with that. So what I'm going to do is get this fitted up and make a new hole. You can see this bracket is very, very big. So we're going to make a new hole so that we don't put a tremendous amount of stress on anything. And that'll allow us to fit a brand new part to a car that's got, 30 years worth of stuff on it. But yeah, that's did not think that we were gonna have to get into this, but we will. Anyway, I'm just trying to make sure there's no other little hidden gotchas up there. But I think we're gonna be able to do this with a very simple, I say that now and you guys are gonna laugh at me when I come back in a YouTube second and say, wow, that didn't work either. Let's see how it goes. All right, it got away from me a little bit. I needed to use 3 hands to get everything to stay up. But all's well that ends well. So you can see now that the slot is in the front of the crash bar. So we were able to move that guy forward and get everything to fit in here just the way it should. And of course the question comes in, what happened? Well, probably nothing, to be honest with you. My guess is when they were installing the front oil cooler, they probably thought they needed some clearance for something. Because you look at the rest of it and you look around it and there's no issue. So somebody moved this, and I bet when they were putting in this front oil cooler, they had to make some clearance. But anyway, they didn't think about us that many years ago. They were thinking about, how do I get a front oil cooler in here to cool this motor down? And did it need it back then? No. Does it need it now? Heck yes, it will. We added about 100 plus horsepower, so definitely going to need that. But probably the biggest advice I can give you is I used in my very short socket, I actually stuck a 10 millimeter nut down in there so that I could push up with the nut, with the bolt. So the nut basically acted as a spacer, and I was able to get some upward momentum because squeezing everything in there is a little bit of a chore. Other than that, make sure you lube your O-rings. Make sure you put your O-rings in. And these guys are very slightly adjustable. You put a 17 millimeter wrench on the end and you can kind of move them to where you need them. You can see this guy needed to come down. He was kind of pointing vertically almost. And then this guy, just a smidge down. But everything's got a nice coat of wax on it. We've got our AC lines connected. So the only device that we have not put in yet, besides the compressor, because that's on the engine, is we have not put our dryer in yet. That'll be the very last thing that we do after we've got the compressor and the engine in the car, because the dryer, you don't want to expose it to air unless you're getting ready to pull a vacuum on it. All right, well, you guys got to see a front condenser install this weekend instead of me putting a flywheel on a 930 engine, because of all the stuff that I have for it, I never ordered the flywheel. So next week, stay tuned, and hey, maybe we'll get the engine in this beautiful little car. All right, 930 turbo, new shocks in the rear, new engine sound pad. Getting ready to put a badass 3.4 BTR engine back in her. Hey, thanks for watching. Check us out at BreitWerks.com and have a fantastic day.